A brush marker today. Let's see what that can do. I once went down by the river to get a little fishing done. Now the fish really weren't biting that day, but I still had a nice time down by the river, sitting in the sun and dreaming dreams about orange groves and French gardens. I'd never been to a French garden before, so I could only dream about it. But I was to an orange grove once, except a grizzly bear drove me out. There is nothing meaner than a grizzly bear when you take his oranges from him. So, let that be a little bit of advice. Never take oranges from a grizzly bear. So anyway, I was sitting down by the riverbank fishing, when suddenly up from the river jumped a porpoise. Now I know what you're saying. It probably should have been a dolphin, but no, it was a porpoise. And there is a difference, though I don't know what the difference is. But since he called himself Paul the Porpoise, I figured he had to know he was a porpoise. Now, what exactly the purpose this porpoise had, I didn't know. So I said, Paul, the purple. Did I mention he was a purple porpoise? I probably didn't mention that. I said, Paul, the purple porpoise, what is your purpose? I was into alliteration back then. Now I'm into just regular words, but you know, alliteration is still fun. So Paul the purple porpoise looked me in the eye, looked over at my fishing pole, and then said, friend, you got to go fiberglass with your fishing pole, because the one I had was bamboo. Now I find a bamboo fishing pole to be perfectly adequate. People have been using them since the beginning of bamboo and fishing. You attach the line to it, you attach a hook. I know people say you can use a bent pin, but don't believe them. Bent pin fishing is too hard. Attach a fish hook. This is the 21st century after all. And dip your water in the line. Dip your line in the water. There we go. There's no fiberglass necessary. But then Paul the purple porpoise told me that he was the local representative for fiberglass fishing poles. I said to myself, how does a porpoise get a job as a fishing pole representative? And he told me it was all connections and who you knew. And I believed him because, you know, knowing people is a good thing in this world. And having connections is a good thing. But I still declined to get a fiberglass fishing pole. So, Paul the purple porpoise dipped his head back below the water and swam away, leaving me there, still with no fish. But it was okay, because the sun was shining, the grass was green, and the bugs were biting. Now, when you're fishing, you really don't want the bugs to be a-biting. I know. It's uncomfortable. So that's why I got a giant stick to beat the bugs with. As I tell you, these were not normal bugs, some of them. Some of them were giant bugs. You ever see one of those movies where giant bugs attack the place and take over the town, and there's all sorts of trouble until some heroic guy figures out some deus ex machina to drive all the bugs away? Well, all I had was a stick. And there I was, fishing pole in one hand, stick in the other, facing down some giant bugs. Now I know you think that this is a disadvantage only having a stick, but I pretended it was a sword. And sometimes bugs don't know the difference between pretending and real life. So if you pretend it's a sword, and bugs don't like swords. Bows and arrows they can handle, axes they can handle, but swords they don't like. It has something to do with Merlin making a magic bug sword way back in olden days or something like that, and the bugs still remember. I'm not sure. All I know is my pretend sword was good to have that day. So there I was, swatting the bugs away with my bug sword, fishing with my fishing pole, my bamboo fishing pole, when all of a sudden a cowboy came a-strolling in on his horse. How could I tell he was a cowboy, you ask? He had a cowboy hat on. Who else wears those? And, of course, he was riding a horse. So this cowboy says to me, "You need some help with those bugs? Because I got a bug sprayer right here." Now, I don't know much about bug sprays, but I do know when a cowboy's got a 6-shooter on his waist, it's not holding bug spray. So that made me a little nervous. But he said, no, don't be nervous. This 6-shooter is filled with bug spray. So I said, let's see it then. So he took out his 6-shooter and he proceeded to shoot those bugs with good old-fashioned bullets. Made loud bang-bang noises. Now I pointed out to him that his gun was in fact not filled with bug spray. To which he said, well, what does it matter? The bugs are dead. And I said, it matters because I don't want to die from your crazy shooting. And he told me his shooting was in no way, shape, or form crazy. He only hit the bugs and not me. I couldn't argue with that since I didn't have any bullets in me. So we settled down and have sandwiches. He particularly was fond of cream cheese and walnut sandwiches. So he said, how about some cream cheese and walnut sandwiches? To which I said, I prefer peanut butter and cinnamon. He looked at me like I was crazy, but I insisted peanut butter and cinnamon was the way to go. And he said, you can have all the peanut butter and cinnamon you want. I'm sticking with walnuts and cream cheese. Being fine with me, we sat down and had our sandwiches. When who came back to talk to us but Paul the Purple Porpoise. Paul was not a fan of walnuts or cinnamon, but he liked peanut butter and cream cheese. How about that for a coincidence? So he sat down with us and had himself a peanut butter and cream cheese sandwiches. Oh, and we had a good time that day. Sitting there, eating sandwiches, telling stories about the Old West and the deep sea, and having nothing but a good time. But then the rain started. I know, how many fishing days were ended by a rainstorm? Lots and lots. But this day, at least, was a good fishing day ended by a rainstorm. And after the rainstorm was a nice little rainbow with the color purple in it. And Paul the Purple Porpoise looked at that rainbow and said, look, I see some purple. You know what my favorite color is? And we said, what's your favorite color, Paul the Purple Porpoise? And he said, red. None of us knew what to say to that, so we just finished our sandwiches and headed home. And that was another day of fishing.